I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could have a moment of silence, please, for all the men and women who serve in uniform. Thank you. Call this meeting to order at 4 minutes after 6. We have some adjustments to the agenda, John.
Yeah, what we just passed out was just an FYI information for you. We just received this timeline for the, today at the meeting up at the trailer at the airport. And that just shows you the timeline for the rest of the project. Also gave you a copy of the change order for the project, which is all tied into the contract we have for additional materials up there. So what everybody has already agreed to is the additional quantities from Chick Hill needed for the airport that wasn't part of the force account would equal $442,200 additional dollars that would come to the town to be used for other projects. So that's, all that has to be signed by all the players, as you see. And then the other thing I give you here is the contract that was approved by our attorney for the airfield property management agreement with DuBois King that you approved a couple of meetings.
And the liquor license.
And, yeah, and there's some action on a liquor license that deals with outside patio use that the state wants you to sign a new agreement and make sure you're aware of that. And also, you probably need to vote to move the next meeting on June 17th to the Aquasic Fire Station. We should discuss that. And I believe,
Also, the accounts payable that didn't make it into your packets on Friday was handed out also.
oh, is the guy on the, okay. We're trying to get for the solar array, that company up today couldn't make it, he'll make it at the next meeting, the 17th. That was the other thing.
Okay,
That's it.
good, thank you.
So I have a question.
Question?
So if he's coming up, is he gonna have to have certain, equipment available that we might not be able to
He's
have?
going to bring presentations to hand out since we're having it at the fire station. I've already
Okay,
talked to him
all
about
right.
that, so.
Good. Anything else? Need a motion for approval of last meeting's minutes, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the May 20th, 2019 regular meeting minutes with any corrections or additions.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor? Public to speak for non-agenda items. Joe?
Yeah, what the stumpage rate end up being on the extra fill at the airport?
John?
What was the question?
What did the stumpage rate end up being for the extra fill at the airport?
6 1/4.
$6.
$6 a yard?
6 1/4, yeah.
Perfect. It's like 50, 60, 70,000 yards.
That number sounds about right, yeah.
Perfect.
Any other questions, comments, public to speak? Thank you. Boards and committees, we received nothing. Consent items, disbursement warrants.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve AP warrant number 60 in the amount of $71,455.67.
Second.
Comments, questions? All in favor? Liquor licenses, Parkside and Maine.
Get there.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the liquor license for Parkside Maine Inc.
Second.
Questions, comments? Everything's all filled out, looks good? All in favor? CC Food Design doing business as The Shed.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license renewal for C&C Food Design, doing business as The Shed.
Second.
Unseconded. Everything's in order on that one as well. All in favor? Loon Lodge.
Question. Fire chief hasn't signed off
He
on
did,
it?
he hadn't signed on it by the time I was doing the packets on Friday. I've got a signature.
But he signed it now. Okay, perfect. I
Need a
make a-
motion?
Make a motion to accept the liquor license for the Lodge Inn.
Second.
Cindy seconded. That's being addressed. Were there any other concerns? All in favor? For the Furbish, I'm sorry, what's the name of it? Furbish Brew House and Eats Inc. That's the one we need to add to it. Could you just give us a second to look at that for a second, please? Just got to see this. They already have their liquor license, just by way of explanation, as John said. This is just to include the patio and the front yard. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Potentially 10 tables out there with some chairs, etc. I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the request for extension of license on premises for the for the Furbish Boathouse on Main Street.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? All, let's vote. Event permits, RFA Street Dance.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the event permit application for the RFA to hold their street dance on Pond Street, July 17th, with a rain date of July 18th.
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is that to be pending insurance? Because I noticed there wasn't any insurance attached to it.
I think we have it.
You have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
I'll make sure though.
Perfect, thanks.
Any more questions? All in favor? No opposed. Rangeley Region Guides and Sportsmen Association Strawberry Festival.
Make a motion to accept the event permit application for the Rangeley Region Guides and Sportsmen Association in Aquatic Village Strawberry Festival to be held on July 11th, 2019 from 10 to 4.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Vote. Let's go to the meeting so we can get that away so I don't forget it. I had requested that the meeting for our next meeting, the 17th, be held in Aquasic. We customarily hold a couple of meetings there a year, and I'd like this one to be there, and there are some reasons associated with it. There will be a presentation that day. We encourage all the public to come. We're going to recognize some people who played a large role in saving some people's lives this winter. And so we encourage you to come down there. It's a good venue. Get you down to West End of Rangeley, see what that looks like so you don't forget those businesses down there. So we'll be holding it at the same time. Entertain a motion to do that, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the Selectmen hold their regular June 17th Selectmen's meeting at the Aquasic Fire Station.
Second.
Concerns, questions? Thank you. All in favor? Thanks. Next is, under the Dangerous Building Authority that was granted, we voted on the amendment. We didn't vote on the entire article as amended. We need to do that tonight. My apologies for not catching that last time.
So do I need to read this highlighted area again, verbatim?
Yeah, you should, and then
Yeah, let's do
we
that.
added, added the other dangerous building. That's what the amendment was.
So we already voted on the amendment.
Voted on the
If you
amendment.
look in your minutes, probably easier to read that one for me.
There you go.
Let's see. Right, so I'll restate my motion that we vote to delegate the authority vested in the municipal officials to pursuant to Title 30A MRSA subsection 3106-B, municipal authority to manage abandoned properties, in Title 17 MRSA subsection 2851 to 2859, dangerous buildings, to the code enforcement officer. This delegation includes the authority to conduct site inspections, issue corrective orders, and enter property to regulate the care, maintenance, and security of property determined to be abandoned.
Second.
It has to say as amended, correct?
Yeah, well, or just add to that, including 74 Ball Mountain Road and 35 Hotel Road.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll amend that motion to include 74 Bald Mountain Road and 35 Hotel Road.
Second again.
Any comments, questions? Thank you for that bit of housekeeping. All in favor? No opposed. Thank you.
You just did the same thing over again. You
Oh my
You
gosh.
did an amendment, you voted on the amendment and not, so now you
Oh.
vote on the whole thing.
All right, go on the first one.
Wait a minute. As amended was what she added to that.
No,
so-
she says I'll amend my motion to include. Donnie had already seconded, so then it got second again, the amendment. So now you vote on the whole thing, that's all you have to do now.
Okay.
Don't read it again.
No, she doesn't have to, all
No. So we just take a vote.
Call
Just
for the
take a
vote.
vote, that's it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yeah.
No opposed.
Thank you.
Man,
Can't wait to see what the minutes look like on that.
No,
Thank
this
you,
is
Tricia.
kind of important because in
Yeah.
order to give Tom the authority to do this, we need to touch those bases. Thank you. Any correspondence? No correspondence, thank you. Whole business, downtown revitalization plan. I want to thank all of them that were here, well, they're gone earlier already. RFQs and Ps. Auditing RFP. We had 2 submitted. Let's have some discussion. John,
Did we?
Yeah.
hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
John, make your
Did you say
presentation.
John or me?
John,
Go ahead.
Yeah, we had 2 submittals, and one inquiry that chose not to send in a submittal, and the current auditor did not apply.
Our auditor now didn't,
No, he didn't apply.
but he knew
He
we were
was notified.
putting this out. Okay.
So, the low bid is
main audit.
Maine Municipal Audit Services, they bid $5,000, and the next one was Ron Smith Associates, he bid $8,000, so pretty obvious who's the low bid on that one.
I would, I don't know, I wonder if we should table this, do we have a full board for this one? Just, I sort of would like to, I mean, I spent most of my weekend on this stuff, and I really didn't get into the auditing stuff, so. But, whatever you guys wanna do.
I would support tabling it. I just going back to the email that we got at our March 5th meeting, that, the board had asked why his audit was so different than Maine Municipal Auditing. And he discloses that she didn't do the right kind of audit.
Well,
She
no,
being,
she complied with the state rules.
Well, it says here in his, because this email was handed out at our meeting. So it says here, Maine revised statutes as of 2015 require an annual audit to be performed in accordance with government auditing standards, and which is supposed to include general accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards, is what I gather from this email.
Yeah, and I know she's included what the state requires, but not necessarily what federal requirement is. I don't know. Rebecca might have
If you
some comments.
read the RFQ, it actually says general auditing standards and governmental auditing standards that she uses. She actually just had her peer review and passed with. So both firms are equally as qualified.
Any other comments?
Yep.
Kelly?
So I think I honestly would like to, because there were some things that were caught that we had missed from the previous audit, and I think that Maine Municipal Auditing Services should have the right to explain or at the questions where we weren't doing I think out of the 2 years, one of them was we weren't doing the leasing correctly of how we were doing, is that how one of them was?
Now, the only thing that wasn't done in
Last-
this audit was stuff that he said last year that with timing couldn't be done because of the time he actually submitted the final audit to us.
Okay, because the first audit they had, I'm just trying to recap, it was something about leasing, we had to correct something with the leasing of how it was being claimed, or an account, I can't remember, that was the first one.
It wasn't leasing, it was it was when we just got the park, it needed to be put into a Fund 5.
Okay.
So that was right when I think he first started, that got put into a Fund 5. Well, nobody knows, but in Tree,
Right.
there's 4 funds, and that needed to be put into a Fund 5. So
Right.
that was that.
Okay.
So that was a bond.
And then one of the other things he suggested was a class, right? For, a class for, you to take, what was that?
He suggested him coming up, we had contracted him coming up, and,
Oh, I thought there was a separate class.
no, I looked into a separate class.
Oh, okay, I thought he had suggested, sorry. And what was the other, because, I mean, I know that people were upset and people were very defensive, when he was here with his audit, but I think he was telling us just as much as he was blaming everybody else, that basically saying we need to take more apart of our auditing, and so, I looked up some of the things about municipal audit. We are the ones that, as selectmen, we are the ones that are responsible. And I think we really have to pick our auditor very carefully because they are, because sometimes one of the things that it says is, be careful what you pay for. But we don't I don't feel that we do a lot with the auditor, where they are one-on-one, other than when they come and present to us. So that's maybe something that we need to work on, was that part that they insinuated with, when he said something about, how did he say it exactly, when, for the balancing, like basically almost like a dual control thing? Is that what that's targeting? I'm just trying to make
No, I
sense of
agree.
the whole thing,
So
because
some
I'd
of
like
the
to get a
things-
totally a positive review before we keep moving and adjusting to
So
accountants.
what he did was above and beyond what the state requires.
Okay,
So the prior auditor, prior to Maine Municipal Auditing Service, was Ron Smith, the other person who submitted.
Yep.
They did their audit the same way Maine Municipal Auditing Service did their audit. Ron, the last one, went above and beyond. So one of the things he asked was controls, internal controls. One of those internal controls was, I can't, nobody in finance could balance any of the checking accounts.
correct.
Well, when you're short-staffed, it's not even short-staffed. Like, I can't do a transfer, and Kara couldn't approve it. It had to be completely outside of, so he was auditing us for, like, court, where you had the staff. I went to a training the other day where the town manager was the finance, they were the clerk, they were pretty much everything in that town.
Oh, yeah.
Except for the animal control officer, they actually didn't joke about that. So, some of the things that he wanted in the internal controls weren't quite possible in a smaller town like ours. I do think the board should possibly be more involved in the audit because it's, you guys are in charge,
Right.
but.
Do they come up for like one day? I mean, I'm just curious.
So he actually didn't come up.
Okay.
before he provided us the first draft, which is not okay. They should be in our office looking at our books. He didn't, he wasn't here.
Because usually when auditors come in, they look at the
They look at
trio, they look at everything to make sure that
He
all the
did not
checks
do
and
that.
balances.
Unless you've agreed to a desk, a desk audit, which is an audit from afar, which,
Right.
typically you know what you're buying. And if that wasn't disclosed, then,
But both the auditing firms that we used before, they used the same audit that we got. This one, he went above, he provided more
Okay.
than what was required.
So do you think we're gonna get more out of the,
We did whatever we asked for.
okay, okay.
Just to point out, Maine Municipal Audit Services did mention that they were going to be following the standards established by governmental accounting standards. That is disclosed in their cover letter. It was suggested earlier that it wasn't.
Let's see.
so how do we,
Hang on, she's got some more questions.
That's all right, if you want, I'll let me look at my stuff.
so I guess our question for the board, how do we get all of this resolved? I mean, how do we move forward? Following those last two reports
Would you like
with
us
a
to-
clear with just knowing that everything, because this is what we've got, I mean, this is what he gave us, and I just want to be able to, how do we move forward?
Yeah, all the general, slightly adjusting entries are all in there now. Everything is done that he,
So do we get a letter from him saying,
we actually
And,
had Mindy from the municipal audit come up and reconcile the checkbook as an independent eye on it, like, he recommended we shouldn't do it in-house because we don't have enough staff.
I find you catch your own errors when you reconcile your own
You do,
stuff.
but he put that as one of the write-ups, that I shouldn't be doing my own.
So everything's done that was in the last audit.
Okay.
So as part of, to keep it independent, where basically they can't go in and work with, that's how I took it. To keep them independent, they can't go and work with you to help you to fix those errors, because then they're not independent anymore, is that?
No, he was just trying to get, I don't mind saying it, he was just trying to get more money. Because when he called me and, all the auditors before came in as part of the audit, sat down and looked over what journal entries needed to be changed. And they went over that with you at no extra cost. That was included in your audit, because it is part of the audit. And every town, they have journal entries that need to be done. So this year, I did the journal entries, I made the corrections, and some of the ones that were listed from last year, I actually did some of them in like the deferred real estate property. He had put it up there again, but I couldn't do it until September, because that's when you're supposed to do it.
Right.
So all that got done. That got done in a day, like a half a day.
Right.
So that all got taken care of, but he called and asked, well, you didn't call me to ask me to come help you. I can give you a proposal for that. Well, that's okay, because that should have been part of your audit.
So I'm just wondering if it's different, if we would have contacted them versus you contacting them, as it being part of the I don't understand that aspect, where if they're doing the audit for us and then working with us to get that audit fixed, if that's to keep the independent part. But, I mean, that is also like crucial, that they remain independent, to make sure that there are no, and I know that Maine services have helped us before when we were first starting out, and she's been great. So,
The audit is done objectively. What I think we're referring to, or at least that's what I'm hearing, is that the corrections have to be done in association with our director, financial director. In other words, they complete the audit, here are your mistakes, this is how you do it. And you're not paying them, there's no crossover there in my eye.
No, not unless we paid him to come up and train.
No,
That's
and like,
different.
when I first
Right.
started, Ron, RHR Smith was the auditing firm, and the town actually paid them to come up and train me the first couple months that I was here. So they can provide training. But say you picked Maine Municipal Audit Service, or they wouldn't come up and do our accounts anymore. I would find somebody else.
Right,
Yeah, so that's where you want them to be independent and
Right.
not.
Correct.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So to be able to keep going to Mindy and asking for that additional help as needed, then she couldn't be doing our audit, is that what you're saying?
No, she can do our audit, and I can ask for, if I have questions, I mean, the auditor's there to ask, that's why they provide an hourly rate for added things. It's just, she wouldn't be the person, because like I said, he wanted the internal control where I'm not balancing the checkbooks or
Right.
whatever. So I would find somebody else besides the auditor to do that.
Okay. Okay.
Whatever.
There's a lot, there's like 4 pages and you look it up on the internet, man. It's on what your
The standards?
responsibilities are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like what the selectmen, and how it's basically all on our shoulders, so I think we need to pay attention a little bit. But
Do we wanna make a
a lot
decision?
more. I know, I think that we should,
Can I just ask why
I'm
we
fine
couldn't
with
make a
tabling.
decision with the 4 of us?
We can.
I mean, I recognize weighing in on all these points of view, but, you know,
Yeah, that's,
is,
okay.
is there a note, tell me why you'd like to table it, Cindy.
No, I just, because I was expecting that Mindy would need to explain herself, you know, but in seeing, you know, as opposed to saying, that's, I thought she had done it, or had missed something. So I was gonna give her the chance to explain herself, you know,
Okay,
because we certainly have this email from Ron,
right.
you know, outlining, that was in our packets.
His notions, correct, yeah. Go ahead.
And one thing I want to add is, each municipality's audit is sent to the state auditor for review.
And do we get any feedback from them at all?
Now, unless you have something severely wrong or.
Okay.
John, in your experience, has there been any follow-up with, you know, after sending an audit to the state auditor?
Not in my recollection, no.
Okay.
Usually they accept what the auditor provides. Present it to the selectmen, they accept the audit, and then we, you know, I had the same auditor for 12 years in Mexico, and he's still there. And if you needed assistance, had questions, he would provide them. I mean, a lot of cooperation. I didn't sense any cooperation from the last auditor. The simple questions, you know. I mean, that's why I recommended we go out to bid again.
Okay,
If you like, if you want to table it, then maybe we can invite her to come to the next selectmen's meeting and answer some of your concerns
Well, he, you know,
before you decide.
when he met with us, he said, you know, I have in my notes that we have a weakness of internal control. If, you know, if they've got a suggestion, I mean, we can't create, I don't,
Wasn't there like one category there?
I don't,
That's like a standard auditing, you know, like where they point out, I think it was one issue.
The internal control was me reconciling the thing, and we didn't have an internal controls policy. So I created an internal control policy according to the GFOA, and I sent it over to the prior auditor and asked for a review on it, and I never once got a response. And then this spring, about a month ago, he calls and says, well, I haven't reviewed it because I think maybe, you know, with my experience, we could figure out a contract where I could do it for you. I'm not even.
okay, I guess I interpreted that as, you know, as Shelley had pointed out that, you know, the selectmen need to, you know, somehow understand and, or get, I don't know.
all right, so if you don't want to table it, I would like to make a motion to accept the bid for R.H.R. Smith and Company. So we have a whole new fresh eye to give us an opinion. And I do not like having to spend the extra money, but I think in this case that it would probably be in our best interest.
Second.
any more comments?
No.
So the motion is to accept the higher bid of 8,000.
Yep.
Tell me, I just want to ask you why.
Just to have a fresh eye on it, where he was saying one audit was different than the other, and just to get a fresh eye, and they have so many customers that are within Franklin County, it's impressive.
Okay. Anything? No. Cindy?
Also,
All those in favor? Opposed? I don't want to spend the extra $3,000. Yep. Do you have a comment, Joe? You
Well,
also-
I'm confused, who you're talking about, all these auditors, so the auditor was low bid, that was one that, or was it the audit before? I'm confused about the whole
The-
thing.
the low bid order was the one before our current one.
This Mindy's,
Yeah.
was low bid this time?
We have experience with that one.
I thought one of them didn't rebid, John said. or
The
something.
one that we
Our
had
current
last time
one
did
we
not
have right
rebid.
now.
Our current one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Well, these two were, they're new.
They both they both have audited the town of Rangeley before.
Oh, they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure it all out.
Okay, thank you. Next up is, hey, wait, oh, I gotta make this. Hang on 1 second. Loon Lake Engineering RFP. We have 6 submittals. Avies, Dirigo, Mainland, CES Inc., Wright Pierce, and DuBois King. John, start us off.
You should all have a little spreadsheet.
Several.
We invited 7 firms to mandatory pre-bid meeting, 6 showed up. The HEB.
Hold on 1 second. I don't have a spreadsheet. I have one. I didn't get one. I was using John's earlier.
Yeah, actually, there's, it's on that same thing. Basically, it's just,
Got it, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yep, stuck together. Chew 'em down.
At the pre-bid meeting, I mentioned that we needed to also look at construction administration and inspection. And specifically because we got a Northern Borders grant, that's federal money, and I was concerned that that might require Davis-Bacon wage rates, which is a comprehensive weekly review of everybody's working on the project, everybody's salaries and benefits. So, all the jobs I've ever done with federal money, the engineer's been responsible for overseeing those, and the inspections and everything else. So, the only 2 outfits that addressed that were Aviest and DuBois King. The rest of them under a separate contract, and then under a rate sheet, by the hour, so. If you notice the prices, we had a price for the design work and then with the sidewalk included all the way up. So, you'll notice that the absolute low bidder was Mainland by a couple $1,000, almost $3,000. The next one was Aviest, then Derigo, then Wright Pierce and CES, and then DuBois King was the highest bid. So, given that Aviest was the only one that really itemized the administration estimates and the inspection, my recommendation would be we go with them, even though it's about $3,000 higher than the design with the sidewalk. I've looked them all through, they're all certainly qualified, but you can see the price range is quite a spread.
Go ahead, Tony.
John, do you know why the first 3 were in the $30,000 to $45,000 range, and the last 3 were from $70,000 to $76,000?
That's the mystery, isn't it?
It is.
The nature of bidding,
That's a head scratcher.
whether it's all, extra overhead, or, what we perceived as the project. If you notice one issue that may or may not need to be dealt with is there's a small pond about halfway up there, and whether that requires a DEP permit or not. One of them addressed it as yes, some of them had it as not anticipated or not included, so maybe we'll have to look into that a little deeper, so that might alter.
It wasn't determined whether you actually needed the permit for the wetland or not.
Not at this point,
Okay.
no. But you notice one right here seems to think you do need to deal with that permit, and that costs about $10,980.
Yeah, that's right by my parents' house, the little
No,
stream that
Magnolia's
goes
one.
down. Oh, you mean,
Magnolia's one.
oh, you're talking about Dr.
But
Mr.
we're
Magnolia.
gonna
I
be-
brought that up in the meeting about your, right near your parents' house, and that didn't seem to be a concern.
All right,
Also,
We're gonna be within the right of way, it's a rebuild of an existing road, so that's something that really has to be decided. Does this really impact the little pond there, or doesn't it,
so yeah, those are man-made ponds, you made those.
Yeah, go ahead, Donnie.
yeah, also, Edvis has inspection $20,000. The rest of them are separate contract, time change, whatever. The Dubois King is 78,000.
Yes. Plus 95 for the design.
Why the difference between 20,000 and 78,000? I don't understand that at all.
I have no idea. That's what they submitted as what they put through. And they also included not anticipated, not included on the NRPA permit.
We have representatives here, but I'd like to get all the questions out on the table first. Joe, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to get two of the bidders here.
Yeah, we'll get to
I
them.
just
Thank you.
wondered if you
Yep.
could ask them and maybe.
I will, Joe. I'll get to them. From the board, anything else?
Not right at the moment.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did you say that Mainland didn't have a price sheet? You mean like this? 'Cause
They gave us that for it's an hourly, rates per
Yep,
the principals and the designers, they all have a different hourly rate. They gave us that
okay,
after Keith was trying to get to the bottom of, they didn't even mention the additional administrative contract in their proposal. All they mentioned initially was the price of the sidewalk. So Keith was trying to get a handle on what some of these other ones would be, and that's when they sent their price list per staff person, and it would be based on use of these people, so.
okay. And we can ask if they're here?
We can, yeah.
That's what they did.
All right.
Anything else, John?
No?
Donnie, have any questions? Guy, would you like to address the question Donnie asked about price differences and so on, relative to your proposal?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with overhead. I think the one company that I do know of, they're a startup, they're younger, they're new, and don't have the breadth of experience that people have. So our rates are higher, we can't compete with that. That's fair,
Understanding?
yeah.
Donnie had another question regarding, I forget what it was, somewhere in the administrative category, I believe.
Was given that same bit of D and K. Part of that clarification, obviously, with AVS is D and K gave us a number of $78,240, but that included the inspection administration, all the extras. Obviously, Shane or AVS broke it down to show those category differences. AVS is $78,000, incorporates that complete administrative inspection timeframe. There is a difference clearly still, but again, with the guy's comment comes more of a.
Do you guys have a recommendation?
At this point, to piggyback off John, I think with what we've seen in production from Shane and Aviest, I think we owe it to him and to ourselves to continue that business. Or forward into business.
The only other thing I could add to recommending Avius was when Shane was with DuBois and King, they actually designed the same road to go around the new airport extension, so the design of the road is already, done. I mean, we know that he knows how to do that. It's just the rest of the road, that same, 24-inch box cut, whatever was spec'd in that upper area. So, I know they, it's a simple road job to me.
Go ahead,
Can we ask Malin?
ask them any questions you want.
Here.
Yeah, so if you take a look at the bid sheet that's there's a request for two prices. So I don't think it was necessarily that these firms were in error in not providing the construction services, but it wasn't requested in the RFP. So if you look at the price sheet that was submitted, there's only two prices there. There was discussion of negotiating the future construction portion of it, construction administration later on. We understood that, that's what I understood. So that's why I'm a little confused, a little perplexed, quite frankly, as to why that's being used as part of the decision-making. I would tell you that it is a pretty straightforward design job. There is going to be some wetland impacts if we do put in the sidewalk. We're anticipating it'll be 10,000 square feet or less, which is a tier 1 NERPA permit and quarter engineer permit. So that is going to be included, likely if the sidewalk is going into the design. You know, there are some assumptions are made, but that's included in our price. So it's about a $6,000 excess in our price for that. So I'm not sure if there's other questions, but I'm just trying to get my head around the concerns, I guess, because Keith did call us after the bid openings and asked us for a rate sheet, and that's what was supplied to Keith. As far as our experience goes, we designed miles and miles of road, and I've designed put millions of dollars into the ground. So I can assure you, I've got 30 years of municipal engineering experience, and so I'm a little surprised about the discussion.
Thank you. Anything? Yes, Cindy?
I guess I do have a general concern with going with a brand new company. That seems to, kind of have a skeleton crew. As opposed to someone with, a lot of experience. I appreciate, Wright Pierce being here, Mainland, Du Bois King. So I have concern with going with a brand new company. Startup.
So you said he designed the road, is it Shane that used to work for Du Bois and King?
So is it Du
So
Bois
he went off on
King's?
his own?
Du Bois and King designed that roadway with our transportation division. Shane was the face of Du Bois and King, but I can assure you that our transportation program designed that road along Loon Lake Road.
Right, so Shane McDougal's working for, he's the new
He's
startup
no longer
company?
with Du Bois and King.
Oh, okay, I was trying to figure this out. You know what I mean?
Okay. Any other questions? This probably would require an entire board to vote this one, and I feel more comfortable with all of us here for this. Agree or disagree?
I know, we did the auditor.
I'm sorry?
We did the auditor.
I don't have a problem if you want to vote on it.
How do you feel?
No, fine.
All right.
I would like to make a motion to give the bid to Mainland for the $29,900 or with the sidewalk of $35,300.
Second.
Can you address the administrative aspect? I know John asked for that as part of the bid process, why that wasn't included and just a rate sheet was given out. It's very difficult to determine what our cost would be looking at this.
Yeah, so typically that's done on a time and expense basis, typically on construction services. I mean, we could give you a range, or we could give you an estimate of what we think it's going to take. Sometimes, often, the community wants to weigh in on the level of involvement. In this particular case, whether there's going to be Bacon Davis wages, requirements, and interviews and all that, it does skew things, and we have to know what that is. That's not necessarily required under the MPI, whether they go to grants, we need to find that out, whether they've been required of that. So there could be a significant range, quite frankly, in the CA and the construction administration piece. So I don't want to mislead you and tell you you know, that it's gonna be set price. I'm not sure anybody can really assure you that right now, until we know what grants are in place and what the requirements are. The MPI money is very flexible, so that's why our bid is low. And some people may have thought it was more of an MPA process, which is much more, it's just much more daunting to do that process. It could take upwards of 2-3 years to get an MPA party, but an MPI is much smoother and goes much faster. So I'm sorry about the alphabet soup things, but it's understanding where the money's coming from and also understanding the level of effort necessary to do that.
Any other questions? John, do you have any thoughts about, no, I'm all set. I don't need to have that question answered.
Just,
Yes, Cindy?
so, not understanding all of your lingo. So what you're saying, if I understood correctly, was to provide that administration or that additional information at this point is premature and has a far larger range than,
It can have a large span,
okay.
yes, yeah.
And so, is it typical, I mean, do you typically provide that at some point? Or is this something that just isn't typically a large fee that
We think we could be competitive on our construction services right now. We are going to do, right now, we're going to be working with the town of Bethel, doing one of their projects. We're on average, we're anticipating about $70 an hour. And that's a common difference because I'm not the person in the field. Granted, you have that rate sheet, but typically my involvement's going to be much less than either a staff engineer being out in the field or something of that rate, or possibly even an intern being in the field during a certain time when it's not necessary, or not having a complete inspection. So that it's really, and I'm not avoiding the question, it's the judgment that's being utilized when we do construction. We want to try to bring the maximum value to the community, make sure that you have the best value provided to you. So it's really, those judgments are made as we go through. And once we have a better idea as to what the federal requirements are going to be, yes, I think then we can put a better number together. We're going to give you estimates and say, yeah, we anticipate being on the job 40 hours a week, a week rather, and then X amount, the project will be 3 months long or 2.5 months long. We can run those numbers yes, absolutely, we could provide you those numbers and give you a range of what you can anticipate from the construction.
but it would be a range though. It wouldn't be, 16,838 or.
No, well, no.
It would be a range.
Unless you ask for fixed fee. Usually, it's a time and expense, typically, construction management is, because we can't anticipate the length of time on the contractor and such. We can anticipate that, we'll establish that, but if you ask for a fixed fee, we would provide you a fixed fee. I mean, that is.
But you were shocked that was part of the discussion here,
If you look at the sheet, the bid sheet.
the RFP.
Yes, and also the price sheet in our proposal, there's only 2 lines there. There's with sidewalk design
You're right, and without sidewalk design, yes.
So, that's why I'm a little, we would have provided a number, we're not trying to be evasive about it, we would have provided a number based on the requests of the town.
You want to respond to that, John?
Yeah, we had the pre-bid meeting to go over things that we might have missed in that document. It was specifically stated because of the unsurety of the Davis-Bacon issue that we had to have construction administration for the project. So that was pretty clearly stated, to the point where 2 of the people there had to put a price in for it.
In your experience, you suggested that you've done a lot of miles, and I'm sure you have, I'm not suggesting you haven't. You must have some sort of benchmark that suggests that in an MPI for 1.5 miles, you're going to see administrative costs being thus and such.
Yeah, typically, rule of thumb is we'll say 7-8% on the design fee, and then usually 7-8% on the actual construction. We're about a 3.5%. So we're competitive on our pricing. So I would anticipate that construction administration piece could be, as I mentioned, the project, and I want to be clear, because if I was having to deal with an MDOT manager at the same time, it raises the amount of administrative time. In this particular case, there was going to be an MDOT review of the design, recommendations, and that's going to be brought back to us under an MPI. So the level of scrutiny is very different with an MPI than it is with an LPA, which is a locally administered project, or local project administration. So there is different thresholds that we deal with, and as a designer, where it's our job to be aware of that. And that's why we were able to be competitive that way. And we have a pretty good understanding, but above and beyond that, we had a great desire to work with the town and come back and begin to work with you folks again. And that's why we've been competitive. And I might also add that M&H is also recommending us as the primary designer, and we've worked with them extensively.
Thank you. Any other questions? John, you all set? Let me just weigh in on this. I know that you're opposed to having a startup company. Cindy, I am not. As a licensed engineer, great deal of experience with 2 different companies that have worked with Rangeley. And I think the cost savings to the Rangeley should be taken advantage of. That being said, I've got my piece on the table. Call for a vote. Cindy's motion is to award the grant to Mainland, seconded by Dawn, correct? All in favor?
It was actually Shelley.
I'm sorry?
Motion is mine.
Shelley's motion.
Shelley's motion, I apologize. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 1 opposed. Thank you. Mainland, don't take the opposition personally. I always try to save money for my town. Yep. All right. Next up, Airport Consultant RFQ. The Airport Commission submitted their request to us. They had 2 motions, one for their first pick and one for their second pick. I don't have that piece of paper with me. They picked Santec first and DuBois King second. Is that a correct reflection of what the Airport Commission did? Yeah. Each one of them had a 4-0 vote associated with each of their recommendations.
That's corrected.
Excuse me?
That's corrected tonight in the meeting. It's 3-1 for DuBois and King.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. I thought I saw 4-0.
No, that was in the minutes, but what she's saying is the Airport Commission met before our meeting.
Oh, in the paper you handed to me was
They
different.
corrected that.
In the minutes I was given said 4-0, but it was actually
4-0, it's
3-1.
3-1. All right.
I'll make a motion that we approve Stantec for the airport RFQ.
Second.
Any discussion? I have a tiny bit of a problem with this, folks, I gotta be honest with you. You have an engineering firm that's fully ensconced at the airport in an ongoing project, doing a fine job, and now we're bringing in somebody else in.
Well, we still have a contract with Stantec. And they've been at this airport for 37 years. I mean, I would have picked them anyway, because what I read, but, I mean, they know Rangeley as good as anybody.
You wanna weigh in, John?
Well, I just think the fact that the current company we have, that got us $11.5 million, 100% funded FAA grant to expand the airport, that requires some due consideration to continuing on. It's because of them that we got this grant. And I don't know how you can discount that and just go with somebody else. I mean, I've never had any dealings with Stantec, and only with D&K, so that's where I'm coming from, but only from the current situation. But that to me is important. You know, when somebody delivers like that.
Stantec's been dealing with this airport for over almost 40 years.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yes.
so.
I'm just saying.
You have a point?
I just, both AVS and Du Bois King take credit for the runway extension.
Exactly. They're both involved in it.
Yep. And, you know, it's,
We're not going against the airport commission, so I don't see where the big problem is here, but anyway.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, so, I took it as that we were looking for them as our consultant. So we're still gonna have to put bids up, correct, when projects happen?
Oh, yeah,
Still?
absolutely, sure.
Okay, so then, I don't see why there would be a problem of having two opinions. Like, one of the first things I'm gonna ask is about the money, but, and I know it was 100% funded, everyone keeps saying that, but yet, we had a forced account. It wasn't free, we still use the town's materials as a certain portion of that until we got to that certain dollar amount, and now we're receiving additional funds for using our supplies. And then those funds have to go to the airport, which I asked Guy about, I have asked Shane about, and they were under the impression that it has to go towards the airport, which I still, where it's not coming from the airport real estate, I would still offer and ask the question, whoever gets the consultant job, I'd ask the question again. So, just for the money's sake of it, but I just see it as, it's always better to have one person as a consultant that we can go to with the engineers, because to me, it's important to have that extra source. And having two people to combine one project to get done. I think it's business-wise, but, because we don't, everyone in the airport has been there, some that have been there for years. But I mean, how do we know as citizens by new people getting on the committee, well, where are we at and what is the best thing for our airport without having, you know what I mean, that dialogue with having two. I just think it's better, but.
Thank you.
But we're only using one at a time here. We've only used, since I've been at D&K, since we got involved. But we do have two airport general consultant agreements, and both of them expire January 1st, 2021. One is with D&K with a maximum value of $3 million, and one is with Stantec with a maximum value of $2 million. So they both are still current agreements with us. And this is for the future. This would be, I understand, 5 years down into the future. So whoever you select now, but we would only use one of those firms, not two.
Right, that's a good point.
Rebecca?
We can go out to an RFQ at any time. If we're unhappy, we can go back out for an RFQ. I spoke at the airport commission meeting this evening because I was unable to go Monday. I'm against going with Stantec. The reason we went out for an RFQ for the runway project was Stantec was not willing to work with the town of Rangeley. They work for the town of Rangeley. We don't work for them, they work for us. They did not, they refused to do things that we had asked them to do. Things that FAA thought beneficial for the runway extension project. I want to see a firm chose that we can trust, that's going to do what the town asked. Yes, has Stantec been at the airport for however many years? They have. So you would think that they would be willing to work with the town and do what the town asked them to do. Of course, whoever's chosen, we will work together and we will continue to do what's best for the airport. But after speaking with John, I am with John. I think we should go with Du Bois King. I think they've proven themselves. And at the meeting, speaking, I brought it up. They chose not to revote, but they both said each one was a very close.
You had your hand up.
Yeah, I've got a lot of engineering firms. They're the best I've seen for getting stuff done, I'm not talking about it.
Who are you talking about?
Du Bois King.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. $10.5 million. And I don't know who negotiated that stumpage price, but they probably made you an extra 200,000, if I understand this right, that one deal. No,
An extra.
over what you should have got, I'm saying. You got three, I figured around $3 a yard, it sounds like you got six. So $6 a yard on what, 50 to 70,000 yards,
And we've been paying 142.
huh?
I think we've been paying 142.
For the initial.
Yeah, that was to the state, but now Sergeant, I believe, if I understand it right, they're paying $6 a cubic yard for 50 to 625 for 50 to 70,000 yards. I'm saying $3 a yard, it's 150 grand that one deal they just made. I don't know who made that, but that was good for the town.
Very good with that.
Just that one deal. But I don't know the rest of it, but I'm saying,
Thank you, Joe.
they're doing unreal for town.
Yep. Mark?
I've been on the airport commission for 20 years. I've had the opportunity to work with both of these firms. They both have some pluses. I think Stantec has more pluses. I think they've served the town well. I think they were the ones who originally, in our first runway extension, came up with the idea of using the material at Chick Hill and setting up a barter system with the FAA so the town didn't have to pay any money, you know. And the second phase just fed off that initial thing, but they were the creative ones that came up with that idea in the first place. I think they have a high level of integrity, always been able to believe everything they told you. They're not pushy, but they responsive to what the community wants and trying to go with and everything. And not to say anything particularly negative about Dubois King, but I would encourage you to give the contract to Stantec. I think that the town would continue to be well served.
Any other points?
I just can't imagine how you could do that, and that's funny. Did Stantec get 100% financing on these jobs?
There's different monies available on this time. They absolutely could have come up with the same results. You don't know that, they couldn't.
They didn't.
They didn't.
Okay, points are taken, thank you.
I just want the facts out there.
Yep, points are taken. Anything else from the board?
No, I looked at all of the, all the packets, I think what impressed me about Stantec was they have ongoing relationships with towns. It's not piecemeal, a job here, a job there, and they have a number of airports they service in Maine that they've had contracts with for, extended periods of time, not just hired for one thing and then people have decided to go elsewhere. So I thought their packet was the most impressive because of their ongoing and repeat customers. I guess I would like a comment. If you don't mind, a response. Rebecca mentioned that there were some shortcomings a few years ago. Do you care to comment? Yeah.
Yes, I do. I think the whole story's not there. If you can give me a couple minutes.
Yeah.
I was approached at the time by our engineer, Shane McDougall, about this project, the potential runway project. And I was told that the FAA wanted us to include Mr. Rowell in our team. And I asked him what capacity, and he said in planning. I said, well, I've got 3 planners in our group. I'm head of the planning group. What can he plan that we can't plan? Well, the FAA wants him involved. And it was just a couple weeks earlier that I was up here for the kickoff meeting up here for that whole project. The FAA was here, the state was here. And I talked to a guy, I've known Guy a long time. And at the time I asked him, what are you doing? He just left the state's employment. I'm working on my own, fine. I'm thinking, why do we need to bring another planner in? And then about a week and a half later, we had a kickoff conference call, Shane and myself and my couple of my staff, and Guy, and then there was a couple other people on the phone, and I said, who are you? And he said, well, this is with Du Bois and King, I'm with Du Bois and King. But it was unheard of. Why should we bring another firm in to help us do something that we're capable of doing ourselves? So that's why I said, no, I'm not in favor of that. And so the proposals went in for the selection of the firm, and we were not selected. Okay. I have since talked to representatives of the FAA, and they absolutely denied that they said that he had to be part of the team. So I kind of validated my concerns. So we were not selected for the runway project. But we have been working up here for a long time. We've done a lot of projects up here, a lot.
I don't.
Who told you that you had to hire Mr. Ruel?
Shane McDougal told me.
Okay.
Rebecca?
And it was just shortly after that Shane resigned and left the firm and went to work for Du Bois and King.
Actually, in the meeting, it was FAA who said that Guy Raoul needs to be a part of the project. And I didn't meet with URBDEC, I met with Dave Dargy face-to-face down at their office. And it was him who told me, I told him FAA wanted him to be a part of it, we don't need to bring somebody else on. Apparently FAA feels he needs to be a part, well, we can do it too. My guess is FAA didn't believe they could do it. Why else have him come on? But it doesn't matter, the town said, after what the town manager, talking to the town manager at the time, we want him to be a part of this project. He needs to come on as a part of this project. It was recommended by FAA in a meeting. They refused. And
Thank you. Hang on, Donnie.
It's a he, she said. All I know is what I just told.
You did say you called the FAA and they denied this whole thing?
Correct.
Okay.
And the reason, and this may have happened,
Okay.
but technically, they're not allowed to get involved in that. They're not allowed to get involved in the procurement process. They have to remain neutral.
That seems a little odd that they were
So that's why I was
mandate
suspicious.
that something had to happen before. Yeah, okay.
All right, any other comments?
I'm getting a headache though.
I'm sorry?
I'm getting a headache. No, Terry.
Well, between your head and my knee, we're in great shape.
There we go.
Yeah. Any other comments? All right, we have a motion. Would you repeat the motion? It's been a while.
Approve Stantec for the airport RFQ.
Good. Nothing else? I just want to weigh in. I have no axe to grind with Santec or anybody else, but I do agree that there is a recent history that has been beneficial to Rangeley, and it would be my recommendation to go with Du Bois King for those reasons. Again, casting no dispersions at all on Santec or anybody else. I think recent history does show a great deal of success, what we have right this minute. With that said, all in favor of Santec? Opposed? The vote. I'll echo what I said earlier. I'll take that as a personal affront.
None taken, sir.
All right, thank you.
You've been doing this a long time. You take it personally.
Indeed.
Just like this job.
That's right. New business. I have nothing on the new business. Anybody else?
No?
Department head updates. 10.
Thank you for coming.
What's that?
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it. We have reports from planning report. We have well, you read all of this here. There's a bunch of them. Any comments on anything that you have in here? Cindy?
I guess I just have one additional comment, a couple additional comments from Sally Church. Just a heads up for the town manager to pass on to the police department that there have been, in the park, there have been skateboards and bikes on the tennis courts, and that's not allowed. And yeah, so there was some place, I can't read my writing, there were bikes and skateboards somewhere else. I ripped off the piece of paper, but anyway, she just,
Basketball court, maybe?
yeah, I think so. So she just asked if the police could swing through every once in a while. That's it from Sally.
Anything else? On June 11th, it's time to vote. Secret ballot town meeting. Polls are open from 8 to 8, is that correct? 8 to 8. Please come and cast your ballots. Other business, Franklin County budget.
They're meeting tonight.
What's that?
They are. Was it supposed to be at 6 o'clock?
Oh,
That'll be interesting.
Have a good night, folks.
thank you, Dale.
Thank you,
Appreciate your
Carol.
comment.
Thanks for coming.
Any comments on the budget for Franklin County?
We pay too much, but other than that.
Yes.
I just heard from Julie Lagoon, our share will be, if everything goes through, will be $677,235, which is an increase of $10,002.
607 or 670?
$677,000.
Okay.
It's an increase of $10,000.
Increase of what percentage?
It's $10,002. If it passes as it was, you have it in front of you.
Okay. There you have it, the latest and greatest.
Yeah.
Another comment, the school budget apparently
Yep,
passed
that,
last
I
night.
was gonna ask when that comes up.
Was
Yep.
that passed last night?
We just got
And
that.
also, one other thing, Steve, we gave you revenue sharing update from MMA. Apparently, the appropriation committee is going against the governor's recommendation of increasing revenue sharing from 2 to 2.5%, and they're recommending 3% this year, and 3.75% in the second year,
Wow.
which brings the pot of money for municipalities up from currently 74 million to the first year would be 105 million, and the second year 143 million, so that'll bring us some additional revenue. And one other thing is, they also voted to expand the value of the homestead exemption from 20,000 to 25,000 to provide full reimbursement for the 5,000 increase by adjusting the state's reimbursement rates from 62.5% to 70%.
Wow.
So that's significant as well.
Sure.
Steve, if I could just,
Go ahead.
so what is the likelihood, John, of this, of,
Very good, knowing how I know how it works.
I was gonna say, that's why I wanted to know, so how likely is this?
Because it comes unanimous out of the appropriations committee and they're the final say. The final budget still has to be approved by the full legislature.
Okay,
But if it's coming out unanimous, then it's a given.
wow,
And there's been a lot of push, I've been reading the whole session, that taxation committee, they've been supporting increasing municipal revenue sharing finally, and now appropriations, the same thing. So I'm very confident that those things will happen in the governor's budget package. And their objective is to keep it below the $8 billion. That's,
where are they getting that money from, has,
the economy's boomed.
okay,
There's
okay.
a lot of extra, every year there's been 60, 70, 100
I know, but they didn't put it back in the
$100
schools.
Huh?
Oh, anyway.
Problem with the school is Rangeley's value is so much that the
Yeah.
formula says you can afford the whole school bill. That's the problem Rangeley has, as well as, Roxbury with their wind towers,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
some of these other towns get nothing. But revenue sharing, everybody gets a
That's
piece of
right.
that.
Oh, yeah.
So that's helpful for the taxpayer. And of course, the homestead helps the residents, but the non-residents pay the difference. That's 30% difference that we're not getting reimbursed.
Wow.
The businesses.
That'll make up for the 10,000 increase, right?
But that's a good point, because the new additional revenue sharing will probably offset that extra increase to the businesses. It could be $30
yeah.
extra thousand dollars that we're gonna get.
Okay.
Anything else from here? Mark?
I just wanted to take a minute and thank you and Shelley and Ethan for taking out your papers to run for selectmen. You know that you're willing to dedicate your time, should you be elected, there for the betterment of town. I just want to tell you, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
And thanks to Ethan and Shelley.
And best luck to you all.
Yep. Grant applications for Bugle Cove and Ball Mountain. John, why don't you start us off on that one, because...
Yeah, we submitted the application, the maximum funding for those things
Yeah.
with DEP is $95,000. It looks like our share would be a little more than that, but in the estimate to do that, I think the estimate was for the whole cost, $200,000. So, we applied for both of those areas that, they changed the rules for streams that run all the time. So you have to put these box culverts so the fish and frogs can cross the road safely. So if we get both grants, we'll put them both in. One of them is on the paved section of Ball Mountain Road, one of them is on the dirt section, so if we get one grant, we'll do the paved section first, so we can finish the finished paving.
Yeah,
And,
we saw that one coat to left to go over it, right?
we have the finish, yeah, we put the base on, and with the, with the realization that if we get the grant, we'll probably have to saw cut both sides of that, but then, when it's done, that's a minor cost, to replace the base, and then, once that's in, you can finish the whole thing, and it'll be a better road. So, if we get one grant, then that's what we'll plan on doing, so we can finish that, either this year or next year. Probably, most likely next summer, we would put the finished paving on. If we get the grant, we might be able to get that into the fall. And those have been submitted, they were due in, Monday.
So this is just for an FYI, it's not for
Yeah,
anything we have to do?
Yeah, just that we've submitted those.
You don't need any action on this part. What about, since we're at the end of number 10 here, before we go into select board communications, is it your recommendation, John, that we vote on this parallel parking versus diagonal parking tonight?
We put it on for a hearing tonight so that we might be able to do all the lines downtown before the 4th of July, because I think it's pretty busy. And it's up to you. I mean, we refrained from painting those verticals, and we did diagonals, and we did all the horizontals. So we still have painting to do, depending upon your action.
Didn't they just repaint the center line too? Wouldn't that be moved too?
No, they painted the center line on Pleasant Street. They didn't do down Main Street.
Yeah, not Main Street, that I know of.
No. Pleasant Street.
So I guess the question is, do we get Daryl to, Jeff to tweak his design to leave the space everybody seemed to be concerned with, or you want to go that route?
To see what that is?
So let me do one thing before you go that route there. Monica Taylor is here this evening, and she had a lot of presence on Facebook regarding this thing. What was discussed earlier, Monica, I don't know if you were here.
No, I've got my times.
Okay, is that the net total loss, the way it's designed now, is 2 spaces? 2. So there was a lengthy discussion, and I'm going to paraphrase, and if I miss some key points, please chime in. It was suggested that due to difficulty of parallel parking, that 3 feet be added to the 20-foot in certain areas. So we might lose 1 or 2 more. So that would be a net total of 4 if it was in fact that. Now the question John has is, do we get them to give us another presentation on adding the 3 feet, or how do we go about that at this point?
Well, not necessarily presenting to you, but to keep the plan so we can get the guys to paint the lines where you want them, leave an extra for it.
Right. So what you're saying is then we decide leave it as is or go to parallel parking?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair assessment?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean,
There were a lot of issues brought up, just to further fill you in terms of safety.
I'm not worried about it. You guys have had your meetings and you know what you gotta do.
We do, but I just wanted to make sure, since you were
The only
reasonably...
reason I posted it was because I know that there's a lot of people that don't know what goes on, so I just, I do my part and, hey, people wake up.
Yep, appreciate it. You're a taxpayer, I wanted to let you know.
My biggest, the thing I said is, we have a planning board that doesn't plan. We have a planning board that reviews, in my opinion. I think we need a board that needs to plan more, and I'm trying to be polite about this. We're allowing lots of businesses to come in and start up and not have proper parking. And I think that adds to the headache of what we have. If you're gonna be building a business that requires, you have 10 employees, well, you better have 10 parking spots and then something for your customers or your guests. And we're not doing that, we're not thinking that way. And that's my 2 cents.
There was a concern about that brought up in the public
And
park.
it's happening over and over again.
Yeah, that was brought up, and it was also, we have existing businesses or tenants that use Main Street parking when most likely there is parking in back of their own buildings.
Yes.
So it's making that request to those.
Well, Alpine Shop, she's got 2 employees on the street.
Yeah.
They should be parking at the park, but Parkside employees were supposed to park behind at the town park, but they don't allow them to park at the town park. So now Parkside is renting space from somebody else. That's asinine. If there's parking in the park, let whomever has a vehicle park there, whether it's an employee of a business or not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. All right, so the question is parallel parking or leave diagonal? I move we go to parallel parking, and with the caveat that we can, if the motion passes, that we ask them to give us a determination on the 3-foot, how and what the layout will be prior to installation of lines.
Yep. Second.
Yeah, I agree. I trust the engineer's judgment on that, though. This is what they do. This was a suggestion, but we've got...
But I believe it's a good suggestion.
We had state there, we had Mark Hume, we had, M&H. We're all in agreement that the transition to parallel will definitely be, it's gonna be a while to get used to, a nightmare to get used to, absolutely. People are gonna adjust, they're gonna complain, but ultimately the safety factor becomes into consideration where the use, rather than back out into traffic, you're gonna pull out into traffic. You're gonna know what's coming, you're gonna gain lane space.
What wasn't brought up in the public hearing, that was brought up to us many years ago, there will come a time if the state's gonna be participating and they're gonna force you to do what the state standards are.
Correct.
State standards are parallel parking.
Correct.
So we're preempting the force. But I do believe that safety component is a big issue. Yes.
I agree with your suggestion, back when I lobbied to maintain diagonal parking for quite a while, that time has passed. With the length of full-size pickups with extended cabs and everything else, they stick out too far. Now you've got your green marker men, marking the crosswalks and things like that. Your lanes are so narrow to try to come through there safely, with a larger piece of equipment, it's not good for anybody, so.
God forbid one kid walks out, we're in trouble.
To me, it's time to go to the parallel.
Comment?
Yeah, when Joe Roach was here, we did discuss that area and maintaining the diagonal parking, but just having a compact car only signage there. But I think that can create a lot of hostility if the police department has to get involved in their ticketing. It's just not a very, welcome to Rangeley kind of thing to do. So so that was something that we did discuss. It's we could just label this as compact car, passenger car parking only, but
it would be an enforcement issue.
It'd be an enforcement issue.
It would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Cool.
Good. Thank you. Select Board Communications, anybody have any?
Question?
Yes?
Do we have a lot of blanks for committees that are left for fill-ins? We do, don't we?
On the ballot,
Yeah,
you've seen the ballot.
I've seen it, but I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, yeah, we had the select board, there's people running, and sewer commission. Park commission's empty, school board's empty, budget committee's empty. Not the whole board, but the positions that need to be filled, yeah.
Budget committee, there's 3.
Okay. Anything else under communication? All right, I need a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we go into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 405, 6C, acquisition of real property of economic development.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Modern came.
One of my grandfathers. It pains me to even use